Oh boy, okay, so we are a few days removed from the 2022 NHL Entry Draft's first round, and the day of the first round was exciting. Particularly if you're a fan of any team not named the Chicago Blackhawks. And I say that because when you look at what the Chicago Blackhawks did on day one of the draft, it's easy if you're not a Blackhawks fan to point at that team and start laughing, and if you are a Blackhawks fan, it's easy to also go into the corner and start crying. This is a team that is on the rebuild, which is why they traded away Alex DeBrincat, young 40-goal scorer, a very good franchise potential piece heading into the future, as well as Kirby Dach. 21 years old, he is a center, he's a big dude, he definitely has better days ahead of him. They traded away both of these guys while also keeping Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. That is how you do a rebuild, folks. You trade away the young players, you keep around the old guys, and now Duncan Keith has retired, so there is a big cap penalty that the Blackhawks will end up taking on that kind of devalues the amount of savings they're even going to get by trading DeBrincat away in the first place. Yeah, Chicago, man, what a disaster of a day for them when it comes to the monetary asset management point of view, but what I wanted to go over here was indeed those two trades, DeBrincat to Ottawa as well as Kirby Dach to Montreal, and just kind of, as Frank Saravelli said, keep score. Because I do think that opens our eyes as to everything that has been going on here a little bit more if we round out all the trades and collect all the details. So, just for starters here, the first trade of the day, Chicago trades away Alex DeBrincat over to the Ottawa Senators in a deal where they receive 7th overall as well as 39th overall and a 3rd in 2024. For the sake of keeping things simple and grounded in this year, let's ignore the 2024 third-round pick for a moment because, again, it's in 2 years and it's only a third. DeBrincat got traded for Kevin Korchinski and Paul Ludwinski when you take a look at who the Blackhawks actually selected with those draft picks. And this trade, even if you add on the third-round pick from 2024, absolutely does not align with what we thought the Blackhawks would be able to get in a trade for Alex DeBrincat. Then you have Kirby Dach, who was sent over to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for the 13th overall pick, as well as the 66th overall pick in the draft this year, too. It's a first and a third. The Blackhawks ended up taking Frank Nazar with the first pick, and then the third-round pick was used on Gavin Hayes. But essentially, if you take a look at Kirby Dach, a former third overall pick, a guy that was kind of pegged as the next Ryan Getzlaf, and we're going to make a video talking about that in the next few days here, don't worry, especially since the guy is now a Montreal Canadien. But he posted up 26 points in 70 games played this most recent season. Sure, he produced at a pretty good point-per-game number last year, getting 10 points in 18 games, but of course, shortened season, coming off an injury, etc., etc. At the end of the day, though, he is an RFA, and because he is an RFA, you're probably going to be able to re-sign him for cheap, especially when you consider the amount of production he has been getting. But for DeBrincat, of course, we have noted just the amount of success that he has had. He's in a completely different territory when it comes to Kirby Dach in terms of on-ice dominance today. These two guys, Dach and DeBrincat, are seen by many people as potential rebuilding pieces for teams that are on the upswing and that are looking to get better in the future. Because even though Kirby Dach only had 26 points this recent season, the guy is going to get better. He is only 21 years old. There is time here for this player to grow. Not to mention the fact that the Blackhawks also traded away Kirby Dach from his brother Colton Dach, whom they drafted last year. Now, I don't want to be the super nepotism-based guy to go out there and say that this is only a pick that was made because Kirby is in the system as well, but how the heck is that going to go down at family dinner parties where Colton Dach is going over to Chicago training camp and doing all this stuff and learning the system, but it's like, yeah, no, we traded away your brother. I get it, these guys are professionals and are going to have to deal with that type of stuff, but still, that is not an ideal situation that I would probably want to put anybody on my hockey team through if I was a part of the Blackhawks. And so you go over onto this Frank Saravelli tweet, kind of keeping score, as we said earlier on in the video. It's DeBrincat and Dach for 7th, 13th, 39th, and 66th overall. Now, sure, you add on the extra third-round pick that was given to Chicago in the DeBrincat trade for 2024, and this is a little bit better, but my goodness, DeBrincat and Dach are two pieces that could potentially shape your franchise heading into the next few years since they are so young, and you only get 7th, 13th, 39th, and 66th? Here is what Pierre LeBrun wrote about in The Athletic from June 20th, 2022, when it comes to the Blackhawks and their offer price for DeBrincat. We made an entire video about this thing, man, so I definitely remember going over this on the channel. LeBrun writes in The Athletic, the Blackhawks are listening to offers for DeBrincat. There is no guarantee that they will deal him, and the cost won't be cheap. Chicago wants a younger player, a high pick, and a top prospect type of return. LeBrun writes that the Kings are one of the teams interested. Now, the Kings did not get DeBrincat. Instead, they traded for Kevin Fiala. So there you go. They made a trade for a goal-scoring forward that is also young, so good for LA. But this was the price that we kind of had in our minds. We thought this was the ask that it was going to take in order for Chicago to say yes to a DeBrincat trade. A high pick, a younger player, and a top prospect. That is absolutely not what they got. Sure, high pick, 7th overall, that's what they got, but younger player and a top prospect, they ended up getting a 3rd round pick in 2024 and a 39th overall pick? Sorry, buddy, that's not younger player and top prospect eligible return right here. Even with the 7th overall pick, you could very well debate that the Blackhawks did not take the best player available. Kevin Korchinski, who went 7th, was a guy that I did not peg to go in this range at all. I thought that he would probably go in the 15s or the 16, 17-ish range. Maybe if in a few years he impresses everybody and he becomes like a Moritz Seider type comeback pick. Oh, he was taken 7th, but he should have been taken 15th, but now a few years later, we all agree he was the best pick at 7. Maybe that's the case, but I don't really see that in Kevin Korchinski in the same way I saw that with Seider. Heck, Matthew Savoie was available on the board here for Chicago. They passed up on him. Now, to be fair to Chicago, with their 13th overall pick, the pick they got in the Kirby Dach trade, getting Frank Nazar, that's a pretty good win. But, in my opinion, if Frank Nazar becomes the type of player that Kirby Dach already is today, by the time Nazar is 21 years old because he's going to the NCAA, etc., I think that's a pretty proper development path right there. All in all, this is a trade where the Blackhawks are kind of setting themselves back a few years in terms of the development because they didn't think that Dach and DeBrincat had value to their team now, plus the entire DeBrincat contract UFA years negotiation thing that's going to go on in a few seasons as well. Toews and Kane are still on this team, and you have speculation arising as to whether or not Kane would want to request a trade because his buddy DeBrincat got traded. This seems to be a fire sale for Chicago, and it's one that if you take a look at the transactions of which picks are coming in and which players are going out, it absolutely does not make sense when you try to say that this is a team that is rebuilding and doing the proper moves in accomplishing that. Kirby Dach and Alex DeBrincat for 7th overall, 13th overall, 66th overall, and 39th overall is just not going to cut it, because DeBrincat by himself is a player that a lot of people projected to being able to get a package that is much, much better than that by himself. Add on Dach, and you add on even the Romanov and the 13th overall pick here from the Islanders, and things get even shadier. Talk in the comments all your thoughts about the Chicago Blackhawks and the way they handled these trades, the return they got. Do you believe in all the prospects they received in return here? Kevin Korchinski, Paul Ludwinski, and then of course you have Gavin Hayes from the Kirby Dach draft pick, 66th overall as well. Man, I just can't. The longer I look at everything that went down, the more it doesn't make sense to me. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if that is the same for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.